Good morning. My name is Tina Thomas. I'm the Senior Director of Programs and Services for the Alzheimer's Association. I support the Greater Richmond chapter as well as the Central and Western Virginia chapter. And I am thrilled that you have taken out time of your day to join us today for this amazing collaborative partnership with AARP Virginia. We have folks joining us today from all across the country. Some of our friends and neighbors are joining us from North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, DC, Maryland, and of course, Virginia. So we are thrilled that you are here with us today. It's going to be a great program, a great presentation, and we are extremely thrilled to be partnering with G. Davis Productions for this amazing interactive opportunity. Buckle your seatbelts. You're going to have laughs, you're going to have information, you're going to have resources, and most of all, you're going to have support. Now I'll turn it over to our next presenter.
Thanks, Tina. I'm David DiBiase with AARP. I'm an Associate State Director of Advocacy and Outreach. Very happy to be joining the Alzheimer's Association today and talk about healthy living. Healthy living is really about taking care of yourself. So let's take the next hour and think about that, celebrate that. Tina, if you could hit the white key, we'll take a moment to just start out with maybe a big exhalation. So exhale your breath and maybe take a stretch. With a nice inhale. And let a smile float onto your face. Smiling is really good for you. It releases chemicals, and just get a sense of what that can do. So bring a smile to your face and just feel for a moment. Feel a sense of, or allow a sense of appreciation to rise up in you. Appreciate all that you know about healthy living and all that you do to take care of yourself. And with that, we'll start the program. We'll begin with a disclaimer. Tina, if you want to hit the white key and forward to the little disclaimer that this session is intended to be informational and educational and does not constitute medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. You should always consult with a qualified healthcare professional regarding your personal health. So with that out of the way, we can go to the good news, next slide, which is, next slide, there we go, that regardless of our age, there are things that we can do to help reduce the chance of age-related diseases and optimize our chance of maintaining cognitive health. You know, cognitive decline is not inevitable. We used to think that at one point because we thought we were born with a finite number of brain cells and that over time as they died off, we would lose them. But now we know that you can grow new brain cells at any age and you can grow neuron connections as well. And so the information I'm going to provide for you today is all vetted research by AARP's Global Council on Brain Health. And we're going to talk about the 6 pillars of brain health, which includes social connection, managing stress, exercise, sleep, and diet. So we'll begin with managing stress. We'll begin with staying socially connected. Social connection is stimulating and it challenges us, and that's good for us. Researchers say that those with well-developed social networks not only live longer, but live with greater physical and mental health. So social connectedness is a key predictor of health and independence in later years. And AARP can help you stay connected. We have a website called Create the Good, which would connect you to volunteer opportunities. Volunteering is a great way to stay connected. And I know that many of you are volunteers for AARP or the Alzheimer's Association. Volunteering gives you a purpose, and it gives you a set time to show up and do the things that you do. It gives you structure and boundaries. Great way to give back. Great way to take care of yourself by taking care of others. And we have our virtual community center, which helps you connect to online programs like this. And then lastly, if you or a loved one is feeling lonely or socially isolated, you can sign up with our Friendly Voices program to get a phone call of someone who'll check in with you. Let's go to the second pillar, which is learning and discovering new things. What do you do to learn and discover new things? What do you do to keep your brain going? You can write in the chat box some of the things that you do. We know that our brain is stimulated when we learn new things or pursue new interests. So we want to stay curious and give ourselves a good mental workout, do things that you enjoy, that challenge your thinking, and really get you to grapple with new ideas and new concepts. Things like taking or teaching a class, learning a new language, teaching yourself a new language, dancing, learning a new dance step. What a great way to engage the brain. A musical instrument, wonderful. If you don't play one, pick one up, learn how to play it. There's many more things that you can do, and it's never too late to discover a new cognitively stimulating activity. So challenge yourself. Next slide. We know that healthy living behavior that supports brain health is managing stress. That includes things like regular exercise, smiling and laughing, taking walks out in nature, listening to music, basically doing things that either give your mind a rest or relieve the effects of stress. So exercise would be something that relieves the effects of stress. And listening to music is something that would get your mind a moment of rest. Here are some other ideas, and you can put in the chat box some of the things that you do to manage stress. There's some other ideas on the screen. Let's see if anyone has put anything in the chat box. Priscilla Casey says that tutoring and reading is something that she does to keep herself cognitively engaged. That's awesome. Ellen says, my husband and I started doing some yoga this year. Excellent way to relieve stress. Let's go to the next slide, which is a good segue. It's ongoing exercise. Oh, we have a video to show. All right, so here's the challenge before we hit play. The challenge for this video is for you to smile during it and see what bubbles up, what bubbles up in your awareness. Hit it.
What makes you laugh the most?
My stepdaughters, but I find that they're laughing at me and not with me.
Laughter. It's universal. The dictionary calls it an expression of emotion with an explosive vocal sound. But it's so much more than that. Humor and our ability to laugh add depth to our daily life. It engages various brain networks, including those that process information and search for patterns. What can you do to bring more laughter to your life? Talk with friends about fun memories. Learn to laugh at yourself. See how laughter may also be good for your brain health.
What makes you laugh?
Thank you, Tina. So I hope you got something out of that. I hope that you had a release of hormones and brain chemicals that made you feel more spacious, more open, more alive, and healthier. Let's go on with the next pillar of brain health, which is exercise. You don't have to be a marathon runner to get exercise. Next slide. It is recommended that you get 150 minutes a week of exercise, which you can maybe break down into 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. And walk, bike, swim, run. But remember, it doesn't have to be all aerobic. You can build flexibility and strength training and balance with things like yoga and Tai Chi and obviously weightlifting. And it does more than just, exercise does more than just help your heart, right? It helps your brain, it repairs things, it increases circulation, it reduces your chances of diabetes and heart disease, and it can improve sleep. So lots to be gained by exercising. Let's go to the fifth pillar, which is restorative sleep. Sleep is not just a time of idleness. It's really a vital part of it should be a vital part of your healthy living. So you can start by getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period and practice good sleep hygiene, like going to bed at the same hour every day, getting up at the same time each day, and then making sure you see daylight. Get out and get daylight into your eyes. It helps with your circadian rhythm. Let's go to the next slide. Other ideas for sleep hygiene are avoiding caffeine after lunch, keeping pets that disturb sleep out of the bedroom, don't eat or drink 3 hours before you go to bed, and keep smartphones and TVs out of the bedroom. You don't want to expose yourself to that light before you go to bed, and you also want to get your mind quiet before bedtime, and oftentimes staying away from your smartphone is a good thing to do for that as well. Let's go to the next slide. What you eat has a big impact on your brain. Although no specific diet has been proven to maintain or improve brain health, studies show certain eating plans like the Mediterranean diet can help. It's recommended that we eat less meat and sweets. You can go to the next slide. We avoid processed foods that are often high in sugar and saturated fats and fillers and salt and have absolutely no fiber. Of note, the Global Council on Brain Health does not recommend any supplements unless you are found to have a deficiency. But we know that we should eat fish, salmon, and sardines is a good idea, walnuts and almonds for nuts. All kinds of whole berries are good for you. Obviously, vegetables, especially green leafy ones, and healthy fats like olive oil, flax seeds, avocado. Let's go to tips for improving memory. Let's see if we're doing well on time. 10:14, I think we're on time here. You can, expect your memory to be not as good as it was, as you age, but you can do things to help improve it. One of the things is just establish a routine with your items of daily living, like where you put your glasses or your keys or your wallet. Put them in the same place each day, then you won't have to remember. Pay attention to what you're doing. If you're going to go check the dryer to see if your clothes are dry, and as you're walking to it, to maintain your focus, you should use self-talk. Say, I'm going to the dryer, I'm going to the dryer. That way, you won't get distracted by things that you see along the way and get pulled into a different activity and then think that you forgot about the dryer. Actually, you didn't forget, you just didn't concentrate. You didn't stay hooked to what you wanted to do. So self-talk's a good one. Avoiding multitasking, that's kind of a badge of honor when people can multitask, but really it's not good for you. It's best to do one thing at a time. Take breaks, because tension and stress are often associated with memory lapses. So take care of yourself, take breaks. Use calendars and reminders. The brain, think of the brain as something that has ideas. It's good for having ideas, not so good for holding them. So use those calendars for things like that. And then next slide, we can talk about if you were going to have a brain healthy day, a day that truly supported your brain health. You could begin to think about what would you do upon waking. Maybe you would meditate. Maybe you'd go for a brisk walk. Maybe you do an exercise routine at home. For the morning, what would you eat? What mind stimulating activity could you do? Would you do some arts and crafts? Would you study a language? At lunchtime, would you eat a lean protein and maybe a vegetable? How about early afternoon? Get together virtually with friends, chat on the phone, take an adult education class, go to a virtual book club meeting. Late afternoon, you could meditate, do Tai Chi, exercise, follow it with a snack on blueberries. Think about your day and all the little things that you can add to it to improve your brain health, or I should say support your brain health. And next slide, we're getting towards the end here. Think about what you can do today. Add a portion of vegetables, go for a 5-minute walk. But what can you do today to support your brain health? Write it down, when you're going to do it, what you're going to do, tell a friend, get support. So the overall message is stay active mentally, physically, and socially, and give special attention to managing stress, eating well, and sleeping with good sleep. Let's watch a video next that will kind of sum this
Everyone's
up
days are
and
different,
hopefully
but let's have a look at what
inspire
a day
you.
in the life of a healthy brain might look like. 7 a.m. You wake naturally, feeling well rested, because your brain spent the night organizing experiences, strengthening memories, and power washing all the toxins that built up throughout the day yesterday. 7:30 a.m. Time to tee up a productive day with a healthy breakfast. Think oatmeal, berries, and maybe some flax seeds sprinkled on top. Your body gets started converting this to glucose, which will act as fuel for your brain. Breakfast fuels you for the creative projects, hobbies, or work that await you. 12 p.m. You are ready to nourish your brain and body. A lunch with a lean protein, whole grains, nuts, fruits, and vegetables helps to keep your brain and body healthy. 1 p.m. Fresh air is calling. A brisk walk helps digestion and clears the mind for the rest of the day. Regular exercise supports your thinking and memory. 5 p.m. Meet up with friends for dinner. Keeping up social connections is great for maintaining a healthy brain. Laughter can even trigger the release of endorphins. 7 p.m. Winding down with meditation or yoga can help with transitioning to bedtime and quiets the day's worth of thoughts that often race through your mind. 10 p.m. It's time to go all in on your bedtime routine. Preparing the same way around the same time every night may support a solid evening of sleep. It's a long day for your brain. Giving it everything it needs, including exercise, stimulation, nutrition, and of course plenty of rest, can keep it functioning healthily as you age.
Thank you, Tina. Here's some resources. If you're interested in learning more about brain health, you can go to arp.org/brain health. The Global Council on Brain Health that I've mentioned in this program has a great website. Hit the resources button and you can see the reports on 10 different topics, including the 6 that we talked about today and more, like for instance, music. There's one on supplements. There's one on the heart connection. They're easily readable, so it's not all science. And then stayingsharp.org has a lot of videos and other resources for you. Next slide. I forgot what the next slide is. Oh, here it is. Yeah, keep in touch with us. That's information about ARP. Thank you so much for having me, and here's the rest of the program.
Hi, I'm Sally Hermey, and I currently live in Bridgewater, Virginia. I formerly worked for AARP, actually, for all of 23 years. But when my husband started developing some symptoms of dementia, we decided that it was an appropriate time for me to retire. He'd been retired already for a couple of years and moved down to be closer to our daughter and grandkids, which I know is one of the very frequent reasons why people move. But I am so glad that not only to have left the hubbub of Northern Virginia to come to the peaceful Shenandoah Valley, but even more important is that I've had the opportunity to rely on the support and strength and camaraderie and enjoyment of being close to my daughter and the grandkids. My husband has one of those other kinds of dementias. He does not have Alzheimer's at all. His memory is perfectly intact. In fact, sometimes I wish he'd forget some things, but both his near-term and his long-term memory is perfectly fine. So he doesn't present like someone would ordinarily think a person would that has Alzheimer's. What he has is a sort of a unique form of dementia called frontal temporal dementia or degeneration. And really what's happening to him is that basically the front part, the frontal lobe of his brain is shrinking significantly. It is degenerating. So there's less brain. And this part of the brain really is what affects his judgment, his executive function, his ability to understand and keep track of any financial matters. He has very low risk assessment. He really doesn't perceive some of the dangers of his behavior. And so my caregiving responsibilities really are somewhat different than someone who is caregiving for a spouse with Alzheimer's. It continues to be a challenge. He's mobile, but he no longer has the ability to drive. So I'm his chauffeur. I must watch him very closely because the degeneration really just affects his social behavior, his ability to really follow through with tasks or ideas. I am his agent with a power of attorney. I'm his healthcare agent. But one of the fortunate things when I moved down here to the Harrisonburg area is that we have a very outstanding adult daycare center. It's called, and I'm glad to give them a plug, it's called Generations Crossing. It was intentionally designed and put together according to its name. There is a wing for little kids, and there is a wing for the big kids with a community pod in the middle between the two wings, so that at least pre-COVID, not now, there's lots of interaction between the little preschool kids and all of the adults, and they would share stories and do crafts together. Entertainers would come in. Unfortunately, right now, we don't have that intergenerational interaction, but the concept. To have that socialization that's better than just sitting at home watching television. And he thrives there much more than I would be able to take care of him if he were home all day. He goes 9 to 5, 5 days a week. It's good for him. He enjoys it. Never any problems in getting up. Sometimes it's a little hard to get him up, but that's not because he isn't anxious to get to Generations Crossing. And it allows me that peace of mind that he is safe, that he is well taken care of. They give him great meals, and it gives me also time for me to continue my professional work as an elder law attorney, as an author of various books for AARP, and as a volunteer for AARP.
Well, good morning. My name is Ellen Clements, and thank you everybody for the great information so far. I am a community educator volunteer with the Alzheimer's Association, the Southeastern Virginia chapter. And I got involved in volunteering with the Alzheimer's Association because Alzheimer's is in my family. Both of my parents had it several years ago. They were in their 80s, however, and it didn't seem to be as long a journey. However, my siblings have all shown sign in their 70s. Both my oldest sister and my brother are in memory care, and I oversee the memory, the care for my sister here in Virginia. And then my other sister in Massachusetts is showing some signs. So it seemed a good thing for me to find out more about this, not only for my own sake, but for the other family members coming after me. But it's also been very educational, and it is a way for me also for my brain health to continue to learn new things. So if we want to go to the next slide, some of the things we're going to cover today are the 10 warning signs of dementia, what to do with the symptoms, and some resources for support. Next slide. So what is dementia? We just heard from Sally. She's shared her very personal story wonderfully. But dementia is an umbrella term used to describe a range of symptoms associated with cognitive impairment. It involves memory, thinking, and behavior. And as Sally said, her husband has one that's a little more unique, involving the frontal temporal lobe. But Alzheimer's is the most common. It's due to biological brain changes. Some causes of cognitive decline are reversible and not truly dementia. And as David talked about a healthy lifestyle, if we keep a healthier lifestyle, we can prevent some of those types of diseases, but they are treatable. Next slide, please. So what do you do if you happen to notice these changes? Well, in my case, I'll tell you a little more of my story with my sister. She lived in Maine by herself, and just with her dog. And I noticed she wouldn't always remember that we had a conversation or what we talked about. And it was kind of, gradual over a year. Then she stopped sending birthday cards, and she stopped attending some family events, wanting to go on vacation with us. And so my sister in Massachusetts didn't want to deal with it. And so talking with some other family members, my husband and I went up and we took her to the doctor. We spent some time with her, and we went to the doctor and found out we needed to help her make some changes. And the real one that was the red flag is my sister loved Christmas. And one Christmas when I called her in the evening to wish her a Merry Christmas, she didn't answer. And so I called my other sister in Massachusetts and said, was Peg there for Christmas? And she said, no, she said she wasn't feeling well. I said, well, that's odd. She's not answering the phone. I ended up calling the neighbor, ended up police going to the home, and turns out she had too much to drink and fell asleep and, passed out. And anyway, it was a real red flag for me, because I noticed that she seemed to be a little more out of it. So long story short, we moved her out of Maine to independent living, then assisted living in Massachusetts. And then I said, she needs more care. So I brought her to Virginia, and now I get to see her. Well, after COVID, as COVID is opening things up, I'm now getting to see her again on a regular basis. So that's great. So we're going to go through those 10 warning signs today that the Alzheimer's Association has developed. And these are, as David said, not a diagnosis. They are just something to give you as a guide to be aware of. Let's go to the next slide. So the first one is memory loss that disrupts daily life. And that's a really important thing to remember if it's disrupting life on a regular basis. So someone might forget learned information, recently learned, forgetting important dates or events. As I said, my sister stopped sending birthday cards, asking the same questions over and over. What size shoes do I wear, Ellen? You wear size 8.5 Peg, and asking me the same question. And then increasingly relying on memory aids or family members for tasks formally managed with ease. Now, as David said, it's good to use a calendar. I use my iPhone calendar and put alerts to let me know when I have appointments, so I show up on time, or I'm ready on Zoom on time. So those are not bad, but my sister would write notes and leave one on the kitchen counter, one on a table, one by the TV, but she never looked at them. So that wasn't being helpful. But now typically, as we get older, we can forget someone's name, especially after COVID, and we haven't seen some people. It's going to be a while to catch up, but we remember them later. And even yesterday, I was talking to my son, and I said, oh, the bush out back is bothering me with my allergies. Couldn't think of the name of it. Too 3 minutes into the conversation says, oh, it's the honeysuckle. So, it came back to me. Second one, challenges in planning or solving problems. A person has trouble developing a plan and following it. They might not really keep a good routine. They might have a familiar recipe they baked for years, and now they have a problem. They might substitute sugar and salt. Can't keep track of monthly bills. Difficulty concentrating, taking much longer to complete tasks, like writing an email that would take a few minutes might now take a half hour. Now, we can all make occasional errors when managing finances or household bills. I know, especially at holiday time, a lot of mail comes in, a bill gets put aside and you don't remember it, but you find it later. You handle it, but on a regular basis, you keep up with it. Next slide. The third one is difficulty completing familiar tasks, driving to a familiar location. When I went to visit my sister, she couldn't remember how to get to her hairdresser. It took us 3 different stops before we found the right house where she was. Organizing a grocery list or remembering the rules of a favorite game. If someone was, a card shark and all of a sudden they can't remember how to play rummy or something, that's a red flag. But now, today, with all of the technology we have, sometimes you need to ask help. I know in my house, we have the remote for the DVD player, the remote for the TV, a remote for the cable, Apple TV, and things are always changing. We've all had to learn how to use Zoom. So asking those kinds of questions, that typical age-related change. The fourth, confusion with time or place. People can lose track of dates, seasons, passage of time. But typically we could forget the day of the week, but we can look on a calendar and see what the day of the week is. Certainly during COVID, we've all asked that question, what day is today? But that's typical. We can find it out. We know how to use a calendar, but someone with dementia might not. They might have trouble understanding something if it's not happening right away, or where they are and how they got there. My sister doesn't know she lives in Virginia. So that's a problem. So the fifth one, next slide, please. So trouble understanding visual images and spatial relationships. And this can cause many problems, difficulty with balance. So you might find someone falling more, trouble reading, because it's hard to read the words even on the page. And then problems judging distance, determining color contrast, and that can cause issues with driving. So just think of all the things you do when you drive. And if it's not the eye that's the problem, it's the connection in the brain. And so, we noticed my sister's car had lots of little dents and scratches. And she says, oh, you just bump into things once in a while. No, Peg, you don't just bump into things. So we noticed that was an issue. Now, as we get older, we do get cataracts sometimes, and that's a correctable change. Next slide, please. The sixth one, new problems with words in speaking or writing. So a person with dementia is in a conversation and all of a sudden they forget what they were going to say and they just stop. They might repeat themselves, struggle with vocabulary, having trouble naming a familiar object or use the wrong name. Last week, because my sister's, it is a degenerative disease, so my sister's having more difficulty. She couldn't name the animals in a book that we were reading. But, you don't make a big deal about it. You just, give her the word and we move along. And we all can have trouble finding the right word now again. So that's typical, but it does come to us later. Next sign, please. So the next one is misplacing things and losing the ability to retrace steps. So someone, can't find their keys. But as David said, it's good if you put them in the same place all the time and have a routine. However, you're walking in the house, your arms are full, your phone rings, you put things down, you put your keys down, you have the conversation on the phone, you put away the groceries or whatever, and all of a sudden you're looking for your keys again and go, where did I put my keys? They're not on the key rack, or they're not in my purse where I put it. And then you remember, oh, my phone was ringing when I was walking in. Oh, let me check the front hall. And there it is on the hall table of the bookcase. Now, my sister always lost her cell phone, so we finally gave up on the cell phone. But the person can't go back and find their keys or something, but accuse others of stealing, which may occur frequently over time. My sister did accuse my brother-in-law of taking some papers, and that caused a little family rift for a bit, but anyways, he didn't take them. But typically we do, as I said, misplace our keys or something, but we can find them. Next slide. Decreased or poor judgment. Okay, so this is one. The person might use poor judgment when dealing with money. My sister, for example, got an insurance policy she probably didn't need, that somebody took advantage. Also, she would get all of these charities, spiritual bouquets, you know, people supporting all kinds of organizations, and she'd write them a check. You know, it was maybe $10 to each one, but that adds up over time. So I had to stop all those people sending her things, and then pay less attention to grooming or keeping themselves clean. And you don't know what it is. As someone progresses in dementia, maybe it scares them to be in the shower, the vulnerability. But with some coaxing or encouragement, like someone's coming to visit, you know, they will do it, but they're not going to do it on their own. And we all make bad decisions once in a while, maybe make that, you know, questionable purchase at the store, or we forget to change the oil in the car. But those are typical age-related behaviors. The next one. Okay, withdrawal from work or social activities. As I mentioned before, if they're having difficulty with the conversation, keeping up with it, well, they're going to withdraw. And in my sister's case, she had been in a craft group at her church. She loved the big craft fair they did at Christmas, but all of a sudden she stopped going. Or if she did go, she wasn't engaged in the activity. So that's a red flag. Having trouble keeping up with a favorite team or activity. My sister loves sports. Now she doesn't really know what's going on, but sometimes we watch anyway. But a typical age-related change is sometimes feeling uninterested in family or social engagements. We get a little more tired sometimes, and you don't have to go to every first birthday party or, you know, everything that comes along. That's natural. Now, the 10th sign is changes in mood and personality. A person can become confused, suspicious, depressed, fearful, or anxious. They can get upset at home with friends or when out of their comfort zone. Example, when my sister, I'd moved her here in the fall of 2019, and for Christmas Eve, we picked her up, brought her to church, and brought her to my home. Well, all of a sudden, she starts saying, I got to call work and let them know I'm not coming in tomorrow. She hadn't worked in years. And where's my car? And, oh, we called work. They know you're not coming. It's fine. You know, oh, we're going to give you a ride home, and then change the conversation. But you could see, but when we took her back to where she lived, as we're walking up to the door, she says, oh, this looks familiar. And you could see her relax. And she was pretty good still then. When we walked in, she went to one of the ladies and said, hey, girlfriend, did you miss me? And, you know, it was, you could see that was, so I'm hesitant to take her too far from where she lives now. We go outside, but I'm not going to take her a lot of places. I want her to be comfortable. So typically, you know, we get set in our ways as we get older. That's a thing. And we can become a little irritable sometimes when our routine is disrupted, but that's normal. Deep breaths, as David said, try to keep a routine and be calm. So interpreting signs and next steps. Next slide, please. So this is important to remember. Someone doesn't have to show all of the signs of Alzheimer's or different behaviors in order to proceed with the diagnosis. Next slide. And a person who's having these changes in their brain might not notice changes at first, and family and friends are often the first to notice the changes. Next slide. So we're going to talk about 10 steps to approach memory concerns. And this document, that these steps I'm going through, there will be a link in the follow-up email, so you don't have to take notes. So first, you want to assess the situation. What changes in memory, thinking, and behavior do you see? Is there anything else going on? There been some other stressors? In my sister's case, we noticed she was drinking, so that was a factor. Learn about the signs and benefits of early diagnosis, which you are right here. And has anyone else noticed the changes? You know, talk to a neighbor, close friend, other family member that lives close to the person. Next slide. And then what's the important thing to do? Start a conversation. You need to talk about it. Too long, dementia has become one of those things that has a stigma. It's in with mental illness. Nobody wants to talk about it. But if you don't talk about it, you can't proceed to get help. So who should have the conversation to discuss the concerns? Well, it should be someone the person feels comfortable with and trusts. Could be a family member, could be a close friend. But what you don't want is the entire family to come. It's not an interrogation. It is a time for compassion, concern. You're listening, you're trying to share and open up with everybody so you can be honest and deal with it. What's the best time and place? It's unique for each person. It could be in their home, it could be at the coffee shop, you don't know. What will you or the person having the conversation say? Well, you're going to have to think about it. You need to keep notes on what you noticed. You don't want just a vague feeling about it. You want to talk about, well, I was concerned when, or are you noticing? Offer to go with the person to the doctor, because the next step in all of this is you have to get medical professional help and diagnosis. And you compare that going to the doctor with, their favorite place to have lunch or somewhere to shop. And if needed, have multiple conversations. I had to do that over time. Now reach out for support. You can call the Alzheimer's Association for information and support. And the next important thing is to see a doctor. Next slide, please. And most times you will start right with the primary care doctor. They have some small tests they can give there, or they will perform things to try to get to the bottom of it, but they may not be equipped and they may feel like it's better, and they will send you to a specialist. Next slide, please. So some kinds of tests. First of all, you want the medical history. So this is a good thing for family to sit down and talk about. You want to know all the medications a person and supplements, as David mentioned, but we don't all need supplements, but there's all kinds of advertisers out there that, tell, oh, you need this for this condition, and you want to be aware of those. But anyway, you want to make sure the doctor knows, because it could be an interaction on the medication. You want to have lab tests. They want to check your blood. They want to know, well, is this a condition that is treatable? High blood pressure, diabetes, depression, other things, even something like a urinary tract infection in an older person can cause them to have unusual behavior. So you want to definitely be checked for that. And then they will determine what mental cognitive status tests you might need to have. Next slide, please. So importance of early detection. You want to pay attention to memory, thinking, or behavior that you notice. Maybe they're not keeping their house up like they used to. There's other things to notice. If you see changes that are unusual, take action, talk about it, have the conversation. And this is not always easy. Everybody has different family relationships. Am I taking away their independence? Am I going to invade their privacy? Dealing with it is much kinder to do for a person than not talking about it. And so the 10 steps to approaching memory concerns can be a guide to help you through that. And you might find out it's not dementia. It might be some other type of disease. So there are several resources for support. David mentioned some, but the Alzheimer's Association has some. They have a hotline, 800-272 272-3900. That is 24/7, and they have qualified people that can answer your questions. I've referred several friends to use this. They also have bilingual staff, so language should not be a barrier. They have live chat if you prefer chatting by computer, and if you need hearing impaired services, they also have a number for that. And virtual programs. This, I gave you the condensed version of this. You can go online to alz.org and you can watch a longer program about this and also other areas that might be of help to you. Okay, thank you, everybody. I hope I've at least given you an overview of what to look for, and know that there's hope. I even participate in a clinical trial, and we know they're working on cures for this disease, ways to treat it, and so it's better if you talk about it and get the support you need. Thank you.
Series going to kick up again on June the 1st, and we are so thrilled to continue to offer this program and this collaboration with G. Davis Productions and AARP. Now, after today's session, you will receive a link that will give you a recording of this session today. You're also going to receive a link to part 1 of the Forget Me Not program with G. Davis Productions. This is a gift that's being brought to us through the generosity of Garrett Davis and AARP. It's going to be part one, and it's going to take us into the lives of a family who was impacted by Alzheimer's disease and dementia. So there are going to be opportunities for laughs, there may be tears, there's going to be music, and it's going to be a little bit more lighthearted way to digest this topic that can be very, very heavy and daunting for some folks. So we look forward to seeing you again in this platform in 2 weeks, but we'll see you again this evening as we take a look at part one of the stage play. We've got 1 minute, and I want to give Ellen our final words. Ellen, give us the number one tip for caregivers supporting family members impacted by Alzheimer's or dementia.
Well, I think, you need to have support, whether you have a small group of friends or other family members. You can't do this alone. It's a journey, and with patience, with taking care of yourself, and remembering to be kind. You can get through it, and so that's my word. And I rely greatly on my family and friends, and like I said, having hope.
Absolutely. I want to thank you all for joining us today. We have several churches that they're having watch parties, and several long-term care communities that are on with us today. And thank you for streaming in and allowing all your folks to come together in one place to join us for this program. Now, next time you're going to be in for another treat, and I see her on the screen. Juanita is there. Wave at us, Juanita. Juanita is going to be our presenter when we come in 2 weeks, and she's going to be coming to us all the way from lovely North Carolina. So we are excited that she's going to be joining us again with our colleagues from AARP, bringing information, resources, and things that you can use. Janaea, thank you so much for all that you do and for bringing this program together. Thank you, Rachel, and all of our support team. Have a great day.
Okay. Bye.